Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to grind the chain. I've got several videos on grinding chains, some better than others. I get a lot of comments asking what my grinder is, what kind of settings I use on it, what kind of wheels on it, where I got it. Right now I'm going to set this chain up as a work chain for cutting in hardwood. I would set it up a little different if I was cutting pine or poplar or some kind of softer wood. We're in hickory right now, and then probably going to move to some locust and oak after that. So we need to get the chain ground back up. I've got this one, I don't know what I got it into, but there's little to no edge on the chain at all. Last time I was out with it working. So we got to get her sharpened back up, get an edge on it. The way I do it, you know, someone may do different, or you may have seen someone else do different. You may not agree with. That's just fine. We ain't here to argue. I'm just here to share what I'm doing. With that said, this grinder you're looking at right here, this is a Taconic. I don't know how they want you to pronounce it. I guess it just depends on what part of this planet you're standing on, how you're going to pronounce it. Same company makes all of Oregon's grinders. This is basically the same grinder as an Oregon 410-120. The Taconic name is a Jolly Evo. I don't know how they came up with that, but doesn't really matter, I guess. It uses a vise to clamp the chain down, which I'm just going to go ahead and cover that. Every time you move this chain, clamp that down if it's not clamping it. Let's go over settings. Up here, this is your head angle. This is the angle that the grinding disc is going to come in and cut into the cutter. This would kind of dictate on whether you're pulling up and back on your file, or just at what angle you would be holding that file and pulling down into the cutter to file it. If that makes sense to you at all. When I'm filing, I'll actually start by pushing down and in a little bit just to clear out and give the file a place to lay. And then I just kind of file away to the cutter sharp. But that's kind of what that dictates. You can loosen it and turn it steeper, which makes the chain really grabby. Right now we're set at 55 degrees. That's where most of your Oregon full chisel chains will be. Your top plate angle, this is like the angle that you would hold your file, or if you match it up with the witness mark, if the chain has a witness mark. Right now I would show you, but I'm going to have to see if I can order a new number plate for that. Somehow the numbers of most of them faded away on that. Not sure what's up with that, but we're around 25 degrees. We'll just say that. 55, 25. Then over here we have another adjustment. What this will do, you'll loosen up the base of the grinder. You can slide it in and out. It would be comparable to your downward tilt. Some grinders actually tilt. I have another aftermarket grinder over here that actually does pivot and tilt. We'll look at that grinder later in the video, but basically about all that does, and I've done timed cuts before and after, I've not really seen any kind of difference or any kind of a difference in pull in the wood. It'll catch you out like on the edge of this wheel further, if that makes sense, and it don't quite go as deep into the cutter, if that makes any sense to you at all, to put the edge on it. But I always just leave it set at 0. I can run through, you know, several chains here pretty quick, so I usually leave my head angle at 55 and usually grind anywhere from 15 to 30 degrees depending on what that chain's used for. For the wood I'm in right now, I should probably really be grinding at 20. We have another adjustment. It's the stopper. This will be your depth. This is going to how deep you want to cut in, how much gullet you want to leave, how much of a hook it's going to have. I kind of go in between. I don't put it plumb against the tie strap, and I ain't doing a real tiny little bitty hook in the chain either, if any of that makes sense to you. Just kind of in between. Just find whatever works best for you. I've learned if you take it all the way down to the tie strap, you don't get as many grinds out of the chain. That may sound crazy, and it makes the chain real grabby and jerky. I like a chain that's got some pull to it, but I don't like one that's shaking the saw completely out of my hands either. So I hope some of that might have made sense to you. If it didn't, I'm sorry. If there's something you want to ask, put it in the comments. We can go over it in a separate video. Okay, the grinding wheel. I'm going to try to get the name of this right. This is a Tech-O-Mech wheel. It's quite some bit more aggressive than your stock wheel. It's not really that much more expensive, maybe few bucks when you go to purchase, but nothing wrong with the wheel that comes on these, but this one removes a lot of material a lot quicker and leaves a pretty good edge on the chain. But I'm pretty sure it was called a Ceridium vitrified. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm just pronouncing it wrong. But as far as the profile, you'll get a little cord that comes to your cutter. I have no idea where mine is at. I'm sure it's here somewhere. That you can profile your wheel, and you'll use one of these. This little stone, you can see that one's kind of wore out. It doesn't matter if you use the edge of it, you use the sides of it. You can also use that to clean the wheel. I don't like a real blunt profile. I don't like a real steep profile. I kind of like something in between. Yes, each one will make the chain feel different. That's probably where a lot of our chains are going to feel different, you know, is the depth on the tie strap and the shape of the wheel. I could give 10 people those same numbers to set that at, and I bet each chain's going to feel different. It just is what it is. I may be really overthinking it on that, but I think right here in the depth on the wheel is your main difference in how other people's chains will feel, and then other people may be not grinding enough away to get a good clean edge on the chain. But I think I've went over about everything there. You can get the green wheel. I don't have any luck with those. I've had 2 of those damn things blow up in my face. I've had this one, I don't know, over a year. I've still got the wheel that came on the thing like 5 years ago, 4 or 5. Never had an issue, but I've had 2 of those green wheels, and they do a really good job. Had 2 of them blow up in my face, but they were the smaller, thinner wheel for doing 3/8 low pro, so maybe you'll order a thicker one, maybe not. I'm just going to use this one. I need to order another one, I guess. And I do grind 3/8 low pro and 325 chain with that same wheel. You can do it, you just got to be patient and get everything set up correctly. One more adjustment, almost didn't go over. Is I like to position each cutter as close to the center of this as I can each time. I don't know, it just seems to, when I go to the other side of the chain, it just seems like when I line that back up to the center, everything's good to go and we're good to grind. Now, how much to take off? Right there's about what you want, just that little bit of rub, and that's it. Unless you're completely changing the profile of that cutter, no need to take any more than that off. Turn our grinder on, let it get up to full speed. Don't set and hold the wheel against the cutter. That's a good way to smoke the cutter. But you do want to bump it and grind till you're done, till it's not grinding anymore. Now, I don't know if you can see how that's grabbing my finger, but I'm trimming my fingernail with that cutter right now. It's so sharp. And that's what you want. You'll see that little bit of burr come back. If you got burrs left on there, you're taking too deep of a cut. Loosen it up. This grinder has some slack in it, like right there, completely off of it. I can put a little pressure on it and go in and bump, if that makes sense to you at all. But if you having big burrs that's being left, you need to do really fine cleanup passes to get those off. They'll come off in the wood, but trust me, things will be better if you just go ahead and get it off of there in the grinder. But you just need real fine cleanup passes to remove burrs if you're getting them. And again, if you're getting a burr, not to beat a dead horse, you're trying to take too much material off at one time. And when I say that, I mean a big burr across the cutter that's not coming off. Again, put it against the stock. It's a lot easier if I was sitting down there in front of it, but I'm kind of behind the camera doing this. Again, lock it down in the vise. We're barely taking anything off of that chain for you guys that's going to say, you're ruining that chain, you took a quarter of it off. Barely taking anything off of it to put an edge back on it. It wasn't hit by a rock or a fence or anything, it just dull. It just needed its edge brought back. If I was trying to change the angles on it, yeah, we'd be taking a little more material, but let's see. Like a razor. I'm going to go ahead and do this side of the chain, and when I go to do the other side, we'll spin you around, do a cutter there. Alright guys, so what we're going to do is loosen this up, spin it around. That side, the 25 mark's kind of still there. Now what I like to do here is loosen this up. As you can see, we're about back in the center of that. It's not going to be much of a difference, but it is a little. And we're going to lock that back down, and let's just see, but we should be real close. And that feels like it's going to take about the same amount of material. Your drags, and we'll go over that in a bit, or your depth gauges, rakers. It just, again, depends on what part of this big beautiful planet you're standing on to determine what you're going to call those. We call them drags around here. They do determine like how much of a chip you're pulling, you know, whether the chain's going to cut halfway straight or not. I don't look for chains to cut perfectly straight. I'm cutting firewood. It ain't got to be perfect, but I don't want them cutting a rainbow either. Close enough, good enough for me. I'm sure 95% of the people watching this, it's the same way. If you're out cutting big, huge timber, everything needs to be cut. You know, your knots, your back cuts have to be cut precise and perfect. Yeah, you're going to want your chains dialed in and cut and spot on perfect, but these don't cut bad either. You know, seem to do pretty well, but what I'm getting at is I like all of my cutters to be about the same length. I'm not going to get micrometers out and measure. We just try to get them all as close as we can here, and if I'm using, you know, the same settings back here and up here and here, you know, you can see we're still just barely touching the cutter. And again, like a razor. Let's slide through a couple more for you guys. Again, against the stock, lock the vise down. I ain't gonna lie guarantee it is taking a little more material off this side of the chain, but it ain't enough to really notice. As long as it's short and they're close, you get the drags set, rakers set, whatever. She'll cut good enough. Alright guys, to the drags, rakers, depth gauges, several different ways you can set these. I like using this. If you get the one from Oregon, it's pretty good. Usually comes with a decent file. This is a brand new stihl flat file right out of the pack. Or you can use the Husqvarna style. I can't remember if this one's a Carlton or a Husqvarna, but I think they're about the same thing. Progressive gauge. One side's hard, one side's soft. These usually set the chain back to like factory Oregon spec. What that is, I don't know. I'm not going to be that guy that gets a feeler gauge out and measures the drags, but you can tell this one's up there pretty good. Or not. 3, 4, 5, 6. About 6 swipes. The progressive gauge, if you chose to use it, it'll lay in there. You turn it a little sideways. That's obviously a soft wood setting. That will probably take 10 more swipes off of that thing or more. The hardwood setting on it's about identical to what we had there, I think. It's still sticking up a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 more swipes past that to get to the hardwood setting on a progressive depth gauge. Really hard wood if you're limbing or something. Nice smooth cut on that. Guys get into RPM and the cut and all of that stuff. I ain't never got into that, never will. Attack on the top of your saw and the cut. I ain't saying it to be an asshole, so don't call me out. You know, if you're doing a before and after with the same chain, yeah, I get it. I can take your chain and take just a couple minutes with that and drop that RPM drastically in the cut. That don't mean nothing to me. Real hard, knotty wood, you know, I don't want a real grabby chain. Soft wood, let her eat. You guys get what I'm getting at there, I hope. Anyway. So what we take, I don't know, we can count later, but 16, 18 swipes or something. Those had never been touched, and the chain's been ground about, I don't know, handful of times, if it tells you anything. Okay, so now the setup on this thing. There's a knob back here. What I'll do is I'll get that grinder down there, give that wheel a good spin. It sounds like we're about to get a storm. It's just rained and rained. There, we're just kind of barely touching it. So let me lock it down there. We don't really want to take any more, but if it bumps it a little, that's fine, because that wheel's probably not completely true. This is the wider. I don't remember the exact measurement. I'm just going to say it's about, I don't know, it ain't quite a half an inch. I don't guess it really matters, but this is a diamond sharpener to do like kitchen knives with, but it'll dress any of these wheels really good. If your wife or yourself, you've bought, you know, kind of costly. Instead of kitchen knives in the past or something, it'd probably come with something that looks like that, but it does a real good job at dressing those. I've got the head of this on an angle, probably 60 degrees, and I've got a little bit of an angle dressed into that. So we don't really want to take anything off of that one, but it's probably going to anyway. It ain't going to be much. Okay, so we're good on that one. I've got this tight enough where I can still slide the chain, but it's locked in there pretty decent. Alright. It would probably be best to do one side at a time, but I don't know, they always seem to cut good enough. That's how I'm doing it here. And there, guys, is that cutter. Nice and deadly. They will lay you wide open. I got a big scar on my leg where I walked by one sitting in a chair in the other shop. A hell of a way to get cut and get a scar on your leg. And I got two big hunks that actually got took out of my knee about 2 months ago. Just say that little bit of chain spin you get when you shut a saw off. Chain was a little loose, and shut the saw off and kind of threw it around, was in a treetop, and that little bit of chain spin got the top of my knee. Okay guys, so you've seen me cut this wood, I guess, the big tree, the video before this. Really hard species of hickory. I know I keep putting that in pinned comments and in titles, but this channel gets around, I don't know, 300,000 views a month or so, give or take. A lot of good feedback, but you do occasionally get the person that's like, I'm going to be nice and say misinformed, but I've already got this saw warmed up. This chain was not intended to be a real fast cutting aggressive chain. It's meant to cut hard wood and hold an edge and keep that edge for quite a while. We'll make a few slices off of this. I ain't really wanting to waste my good firewood. Actually pulling a decent chip for that wood and pulling the saw down pretty decent. That saw pretty powerful too, but just to give an idea of how big that piece of wood is, pretty good size. Probably not quite a foot, give or take. Hard as a rock, but I don't know, maybe this helps someone. Again, that's not meant to be no race chain, it's just meant to hold its edge. It's got decent self-feed to it, not real jerky or anything. You can limb with it cut rounds with it, whatever. It'll hold its edge quite a while. Anyway, guys, y'all have a good one.